residents have been opposing for years. We ask that you stop this manipulation, show our residents we do have a voice. We ask that you deny.
Thank you, ma'am. Thank you. Our next request to speak form is Mr. Pat Arena.
Pat Arena, Jensen Beach. This is on lot 91 in Sugar Hill. This administration said they would get back with me.
Would get with me, they never did. Why are you so afraid to admit that the county gave COs to adjacent lots without the county and state required swales between the properties? You can't deny it. It's in your own topography maps. It's clear as day, clear for any judge. From day one, you had the power, you had the authority, and most important, you had the justification to write a simple letter, something like this. Dear Mr. Aronson, due to the lack of swales between lots, water flowed into lot 91, and the government-made berm on the east side trapped that water. It is evident that this caused lot 91 to become wetland. This administration feels no further wetland mitigation is required. Lot 91 is now a buildable lot and only needs to meet county and Sugar Hill building requirements. What if it was your lot?
State of Florida and the county requires swales between each lot in order to get a CO, a completion of occupancy. That was never done. You can see those topography lines in between the properties. The next slide, they will be colored in, that you can actually see the mess that Martin County made by not putting those swales in. The water was supposed to run off the houses, down the swales, and into the surrounding canals. That never happened. To make things worse, when they cleared that east canal that runs north and south, they put the dirt up, as you can see, the wall that prevented the water from draining. That's why it became a wetlands. They made a wetland pond. Here you can see the shaded area. This is the area that gets filled with water before it even drains into the canals. This is what caused the wetlands. And again, that wall prevented drainage. So if they're wondering why it's a wetland, I think I found the reason why. We'll see them in court, no doubt.
Sunday, I got a call from the owner, Patricia Aronson. She was hysterical, in tears. She could not catch her breath. She could not understand how the government could just steal people's property. I tried to calm her down and encourage her that everything would be all right. I was not successful. Yesterday, they rushed her to the hospital. She had a stroke. She was scheduled to be here today.
This is what happens when somebody works their entire life saving to retire someday. The Aronsons spent thousands of dollars, hundreds of thousands of dollars to get where they are today so they can build on their lot. They went for a permit and the county turned them down because it's wetlands. Surprise, after paying taxes for 30 years on it, like $3,000 a year on taxes, all of a sudden the property is useless. It's worth nothing. And now this is what happened to the Aronsons because Martin County stole their property. Not with guns, but with laws that are evil and unjust. This will be corrected. One way or another, they will not get away with this.
Criminals steal from people with guns. My government steals from people with unjust laws. The common denominator is they both steal. I'm just guessing, but I think Patricia would have rather been robbed at gunpoint. Probably have a better chance of surviving. I learned this year this whole environmental issue has nothing to do with the environment. If you have enough money, you can build an island in the middle of Lake Okeechobee. Stewart is building with land that's underwater. It's just another government department to steal from the people. I thirst for righteousness. This is evil. The pastor summed it up today. Make your decisions with compassion and do the right thing. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Arena, if you would stay for a moment, I had asked our county administrator to give a little update on what the situation and the status is on your request. You've been here many times to discuss this. Mr. Donaldson, your mic.
Yes, Commissioner, the issue is that the county does not determine what is a wetland. It's under the state rules in terms of how a wetland is determined. On this particular property, the state has determined that there is a wetland on site. The county's code has very strict regulations on how you deal with a wetland. There is a preclusion of reasonable use category that would allow some development to occur, but not to the extent that the property owner would desire. In terms of how you deal with a wetland, there is some, you would have to deal with the DEP or the Water Management District on terms of if it's not a wetland, then they would make that assertion. The county has no ability to determine what or what is not a wetland that comes under state jurisdiction. If they determine that it was a other surface water, then we could treat it as a normal lot. But until that is done, unfortunately, there's nothing we can do in terms of how the wetland is determined. That is, again, a state responsibility. And we've been preempted by the state to make any determinations on our own.
Mr. Donaldson, is there a process that Mr. Arena or the property owners could afford themselves of to appeal a DEP or a South Florida Water Management District determination?
It is simply with the DEP in terms of use of your environmental professionals to make an appeal, but ultimately it would be through the agency themselves.
Now, if Mr. Arena was able to appeal to those two organizations, the South Florida Water Management District and the state's DEP, Department of Environmental Protection, and he was to be successful, the county has no issue or problem if it's approved by those organizations, then we're okay with it, correct?
If it is approved that it is not a wetland, if it is determined that it is another surface water, the state does allow some mitigation requirements, which we do not. However, we do have a process that allows for a preclusion of reasonable use, which has been offered.
Okay.
But the wetland area substantially has to be preserved as a wetland.
If it's classified as a wetland.
That's correct. If it's not classified, if the state were to find in favor of Mr. Arena, as he's described, that it is not a wetland, then it would be treated as the whole lot could be developed as the property owner desires.
So, Mr. Arena, with that, and I wanted Mr. Donaldson to say that during our meeting because this is a public meeting and it's recorded. I would encourage you, I mean, you have a compelling argument, you make a legitimate, articulate case. The South Florida Water Management District has offices here in Martin County, and the DEP has constituent services professionals. I would think that would be a logical path forward for you, is to try those two organizations. If you can make your case to them like you have to us. You heard Mr. Donaldson say that given if those determinations go in your favor or the property owner's favor, that the county does not have an issue that would hold you up. I don't know if you've gone down that road before, but that seems to be the logical path forward.
I'm not denying that it's wetlands. What I'm saying is you approved at least 6 or 7 homes without the swales. I went to the historic permits from the South Florida Water Management District. It says right there that you must have swales in between the property to prevent erosion. And your own building code says the same thing. I built in 2001, and I had several meetings here, right here, to make sure that my water wouldn't run off into the next lot. And the next lot was a 20-foot easement. It wasn't even owned by anybody. So you're responsible for it. You did not put the swales in that were required by state and county codes. I'm not denying that it's wetlands. I'm saying that you created the wetlands.
They refuse to admit that the county is responsible for not putting swales on 6 lots per state and county code.
Okay.
And to go through mitigation could be as much as $100,000. They will not give us a price, and they will not give us a time. It could take 10 years and $100,000, and we are not going down that road.
I hear you. Allow me the opportunity to review what you've just said, and we'll get in touch with you. I read in your letter you felt that we haven't been in touch with you, but I'm telling you now, I will find out if, because, look, you're an articulate gentleman. You've made a point, but we don't know just because you're saying it that it's completely accurate. So allow me to work with my staff as the chairman. It's not my district, but as the chairman, I will follow up on this and get back to you.
I would like you to assign somebody in this area that will be with me, represent me, and talk to me, and it's not happening.
I won't represent you, but the person that I'll assign to handle the review of what you're saying is the case is myself.
Okay, so I'll be hearing from you.
Yes, sir.
I appreciate that.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Okay, our next request to speak for him is Miss Linda Smith. Ms. Smith, good morning.